He once worked as a nightclub bouncer and later became the most powerful religious leader on earth. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario B. on December 17, 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, lived a life full of unexpected turns, human struggles, and extraordinary transformation. Before he ever wore white robes or addressed millions from the Vatican balcony, he was a young man just trying to figure out his place in the world. Raised in a modest working-class home, Jorge was the eldest of 5 children. His father was a railway worker in Italy, and his mother was an Argentine of Italian descent. Life wasn't easy, and like many others in his neighborhood, he took on small jobs to help his family. He worked as a janitor, later as a chemical technician, and most surprisingly, as a nightclub bouncer. Yes, before his journey to priesthood, he stood outside clubs deciding who got in and who didn't. In those years, Jorge wasn't known for his holiness. He was passionate, stubborn, and by his own admission, had a quick temper. He smoked heavily, had a love for soccer, and was no stranger to the nightlife of Buenos Aires. Rumors even swirled that he once fell in love and considered marriage, but something deeper was stirring in his heart. At the age of 21, a severe lung infection nearly took his life. During his time in the hospital, he experienced what he later described as a spiritual awakening. That moment, trapped in a hospital bed, struggling to breathe, changed everything. When he recovered, he chose a life of faith and joined the Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuits, an order known for education, discipline, and service to the poor. Jorge's early years in the church weren't easy. As a young Jesuit leader during Argentina's dirty war in the 1970s, he faced criticism for not doing enough to protect priests who opposed the military dictatorship. He later admitted he made mistakes, and those experiences humbled him. Still, he rose through the church's ranks, ordained in 1969, named bishop in 1992, and Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998. Then in 2013, following the shocking resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, the cardinals elected Jorge as the 266th Pope, the first Jesuit, the first from the Americas, and the first from the Southern Hemisphere. He took the name Francis, inspired by Saint Francis of Assisi, a symbol of humility, peace, and love for the poor. Pope Francis was different from the start. He chose to live in a modest guest house rather than the grand papal apartments. He wore simple robes and rode in a Ford Focus instead of a limousine. He washed the feet of prisoners, visited slums, and spoke openly about the pain of poverty. But his papacy wasn't without controversy. He took bold steps, gave women a greater voice, allowing them to vote in important church meetings, a historic first. But critics said he didn't go far enough, as women still couldn't become priests. In global politics, Francis often acted as a peace seeker, urging compassion for migrants and warning about climate change. But not all agreed with his views. In the US, some bishops even discussed denying communion to Catholic politicians, like President Joe Biden, for supporting abortion rights. Francis gently pushed back, saying communion is not a prize for the perfect. He also faced criticism for how the church handled sexual abuse cases. While he took steps to increase accountability and remove some abusive leaders, some believed he didn't act quickly or strongly enough. It was one of the darkest and most painful parts of his time as Pope. Despite health issues, including surgeries, bronchitis, and part of his lung removed when he was young, Francis continued his work into his late 80s. Then, on April 21, 2025, at 7:35 a.m., the Vatican announced his passing. He was 88 years old. Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis, Cardinal Kevin Farrell said in a solemn video address. Pope Francis didn't live a perfect life, but maybe that's why he connected with so many people. He knew failure, temptation, regret, and forgiveness. He knew what it meant to struggle, to grow, and to change. His life was one of powerful transformation, and though his journey is now complete, the message he carried lives on. But just one day before the world learned of Pope Francis's death, JD Vance met with him in a private Vatican audience. What was meant to be a quiet diplomatic exchange is now stirring quiet whispers and uneasy speculation. Photographs show the Pope looking unusually pale and fatigued as he greeted JD Vance, but Vatican aides described the meeting as brief and solemn. Less than 24 hours later, Pope Francis was dead. Observers have raised eyebrows at the suddenness of his passing, questioning the coincidence of Vance's visit, especially given the stark contrast between Vance's nationalist conservatism and the Pope's globally inclusive vision. Some insiders noted tension in the room and an unusually swift conclusion to their meeting. Whether it was fate, illness, or something unspoken, the shadow cast by that final Sunday encounter lingers over a mourning church, leaving behind a chilling question. What really happened behind the Vatican walls?